Hello everyone, and let's talk about the secret sauce of generative AI strategy, namely failure. Generative AI success relies on embracing failure. It involves iteration, testing, refinement. So generative AI success involves experimentation. And of course, if you experiment, that means that you fail sometimes. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail. So you need to have a failure supporting mindset. Accept that it's part of the journey to success and celebrate failure as an opportunity to learn. Because I can tell you that you will succeed in 0 cases where you take 0 shots at goal. And so you want to make sure to take shots at goal, knowing sometimes you'll miss, sometimes it will be blocked. So you want to take shots at goal. Unfortunately, in corporate settings, fear of failure leads to risk-averse behaviors where employees are worried about what will happen to their career, which is a mindset that's very bad for innovation. Cultures of innovation outperform in technology adoption. So McKinsey research, for example, shows that companies that have strong innovation indicators succeed 45% of the time in digital transformations. So less than half the time. Now, weak innovators succeed only 21%, so only 1/5 of the time. You definitely want to be in the 45% rather than the 21%, so you're more likely to be successful in digital transformations, including with generative AI, if you have a strong culture of innovation, but still, sometimes you'll fail. So you must embrace calculated risk-taking for success. And as part of that, encourage psychological safety, which is a concept from my friend Amy Edmonds, who talked about how employees must feel free to take risks and be bold and see failure as an opportunity for growth, where if they learn something when they fail, if they, in other words, do something that fails in a new way that brings knowledge, not just failing because they keep making the same mistakes, then you need to praise them and support them for learning, even if they don't succeed in reaching their original goals. I'll tell you about a case study of a retailer, mid-sized retailer I worked with on generative AI integration. Now this, to give you a sense, this is a retailer that had just over 200 million in revenue, 500 employees. It was a regional chain. It is a regional chain. And they sought to personalize their marketing efforts. So we started with a small scale project targeted at their database, and we used generative AI to tailor an email campaign to their database. Unfortunately, the initial pilot result fell short of expectations. There was not really a higher click-through rate than their previous campaigns. So the click-through rate in their previous campaigns was about 2.5%. This was just over 2.5%. So not really successful. And those involved were worried about failure, the stigma of failure, and I made sure to reframe failure as a learning opportunity. So we conducted a post-mortem analysis of their initial segmentation model, and we found that the initial customer segmentation was too broad, and the AI-generated tone was too formal. So we revised the segmentation with more granular data points. The segments we used increased from 10 to 25, and we adjusted the tone to match the brand voice. And that led to a significant improvement. It led to a 25% increase in click-through rates, which was great. So 3.125% click-through rates, much better, and a 15% rise in conversion rates. And all of that made quite a bit of money for the store. There was a 10% increase in positive customer feedback, which was very nice. And the sales increased by 8% from marketing. So that was a very nice outcome. And over 6 months, just that project alone using generative AI improved their profit by 50,000. And that was just the initial project using generative AI. There are other projects, we did a number of other projects, and that led to further profit improvements in a whole variety of areas. But the key was the initial project, to embrace failure, be okay with it, and reanalyze things, do a post-mortem analysis, see what went wrong, and see how we can do it better. Okay, so as a key takeaway, think about recognizing that failure is a key aspect of generative AI innovation. A culture of embracing failure allows for a more agile response, for continued learning and experimentation. So empower employees to have the psychological safety to experiment, to fail, and retry again. Failure is the secret sauce of generative AI innovation. Hope you enjoyed this video and this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.